Today is March 3rd, 2021, and it is actually the 6 month anniversary of me starting my daily upload schedule on this YouTube channel. So I started this daily upload schedule on September 3rd, 2020, so at this point it's exactly 6 months ago. Now, the first video of this daily upload schedule was just me talking about the 2020 Senate Democratic primary that took place in Massachusetts just a couple days earlier on the 1st of September 2020. So I was thinking about starting this daily series for a while where I would just make a video every day, like a 10 to 15 minute long video, and I would just talk about something, probably something in the news. So this was something that I had been planning for quite a bit. I actually started my YouTube channel a few weeks before I started this daily upload schedule. That's why my first couple of videos on this channel were uploaded in August. I think it was like August 10th or something. It was the day before Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris as the vice president. And in that video, I think that was actually my third video on this channel. In that video, I gave my prediction for who Joe Biden would choose. I actually predicted Kamala Harris, so I predicted correctly. I think my first and second video on this channel were just talking about what would happen if there was a 269 electoral college vote tie in the electoral college, meaning both candidates got the same number of electoral votes. I talked about how that could possibly happen and what would happen in that scenario. So those were my first videos on this channel. That was back in August 2020. Back then I wasn't doing the daily upload schedule yet, but I just had something I wanted to talk about, and I uploaded it to this channel. But I had planned on making a daily upload schedule already at the time. I think the first couple of videos on my channel, the ones where I talk about the electoral college tie, those were actually recorded back in July. I think it was like July 2nd, 2020 or something when I recorded those. Early July I recorded those, but I didn't make this YouTube channel yet. This YouTube channel did not yet exist because I made this in August of 2020. So at the time, I didn't know where to upload it, but I decided to make this YouTube channel so that I could upload those videos to this channel. And then also, I was thinking of making this daily upload schedule to this channel, which is the other reason why I made this channel. So I decided to start my daily upload schedule on September 3rd for two main reasons. Actually, I would say three main reasons why I chose September 3rd, 2020 as the start date for this daily upload schedule. The first reason was because this was just after the Massachusetts primary took place, the Senate Democratic primary. That's what my first video in this daily upload schedule was about. I thought that that was a pretty interesting primary because you had Ed Markey, who was a longtime senator. Well, before he was a senator, he had served in the House of Representatives for many years, but he was a senator for 7 years in the state of Massachusetts. But before that, he had been a member of the House for almost 40 years in the state of Massachusetts. So he's been representing that state for a long time. But there was also the challenger, Joe Kennedy III, who was directly related to the Kennedys like Robert Kennedy, JFK, Ted Kennedy. So you had Joe Kennedy III, who was actually the grandson of Robert F. Kennedy, who could have potentially won the 1968 Democratic primaries if he hadn't been assassinated in June of 1968, just a couple months after MLK got assassinated. He was the brother of JFK, who was the 35th President of the United States, so he already had a lot of name recognition going into the Senate primary, and also he had served as a member of the House of Representatives from the state of Massachusetts for a few years also, so it's not like he was a complete newcomer. He had already served in public office, but he had a lot of name recognition because of his last name and because of the fact that he was directly related to the Kennedys, Robert Kennedy, JFK, Ted Kennedy. He was directly related to those people, and he was running in the state of Massachusetts, the state where all of the Kennedys were historically from. So it was basically you had one candidate that was relatively old who had been serving for a long time, and you had a young candidate who was pretty new but who was also a member of a famous political dynasty, the Kennedys, and also he was pretty charming. I guess that's one of the main appeals of him. Besides his last name, besides him being related to the Kennedys, him being relatively charming, I guess, was also the other reason why a lot of people thought that he was a decent candidate. So I thought that that was a very interesting primary race. A lot of people thought that Joe Kennedy would be able to pull off a win there, but Ed Markey, I guess he was able to get enough support in that primary to end up winning it. I made an entire video on that. It was one of the first videos on this channel. If you want to know more about that, it was a pretty interesting primary race that took place on September 1st, 2020. And if you look at the videos that I made back then, I generally put more effort into editing them than I do now. Like if you look at that Ed Markey versus Joe Kennedy video that I made back in early September, you can see how many different pictures I included in that video and all the different editing tricks that I used in that video. So I put more effort into my videos back then, I think. But here's the thing, that video actually got uploaded pretty late in the night on September 3rd. So depending on which time zone you're in, it might actually show as September 4th, 2020. For me, what happens is that it shows as September 3rd, 2020, only if I refresh the page. I think what happened was that I uploaded the video right before midnight, but it took a while to process, and it wasn't done processing until after midnight. But if I refresh the page on that YouTube video, then it shows September 3rd, but otherwise it shows September 4th. So really, it's not 100% clear whether I should make today as the 6 month anniversary, whether I should designate today as that 6 month anniversary or tomorrow, since depending on if you refresh the video and which part of the world you're in, it might show September 4th as the date of that first video. But regardless, that was one of the reasons why I made that video in early September and why I decided to start my upload schedule then, because that was a very interesting primary race, and I decided to make that video just after the race took place. Now, the second reason why I started this daily upload schedule in early September 2020, September 3rd, 2020 to be exact, is because that was exactly 2 months before Election Day 2020, exactly 2 months before the presidential election took place between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The idea behind this YouTube channel initially was that I would just make this upload schedule go on for 2 months, from September 3rd to November 3rd, and I would make videos talking about like polling numbers between Trump and Biden and talk about electoral college predictions that I would make, not only for the presidential race but also for the Senate and House races. And I would also talk about like the debates that took place. And a lot of the videos that I made in September and October of 2020 were about those things specifically. But then as November came around, I realized that even after the election took place, there would still be a lot more interesting things that would happen. Like, for example, all of the drama that happened following the 2020 presidential election, everything that took place after that, I thought that was also worth talking about. And also, the third wave of COVID 19 in the United States started getting really bad. So I thought that was all those things were worth talking about. So I decided to continue the daily upload schedule. And my next idea was to continue this until January 20th, 2021, Biden's inauguration day. So I continued into December or November and then December, and then January came around, the new year 2021 came around, and I decided that I would continue this daily upload schedule even beyond January 20th, Biden's inauguration day, because then I could talk about some of the things Biden did in his early days as President of the United States. So I decided to continue even for a bit longer. Now, this brings me to the third reason why I started this daily upload schedule in early September 2020. And the reason for that was because it was exactly 6 months after the COVID 19 pandemic began. So, COVID 19 was declared a pandemic in March of 2020. I think it was March 11th, 2020. So, I made this daily upload schedule. I started it in early September, so just under 6 months after it became a pandemic. And now it has been 6 months since I started that daily upload schedule, which is kind of interesting because basically when I started that daily upload schedule, that was the halfway mark between when COVID 19 began and the current present day. So I think that's pretty interesting to think about how there were 6 months between March and September of 2020, and there's also 6 months between September 2020 and March 2021. March 2020 is when COVID became a pandemic. September 2020 is when I started this upload schedule, and March 2021 is the present day. And I've got to say, the first 6 months of this pandemic has felt a lot longer than the second 6 months. March through September felt much longer to me than September through March. I guess it's because in the first half, there was a lot of new things going on. Like in the spring, there was COVID. I mean, it's still there, obviously, but it was a pretty new thing then. So time went by a lot more slowly, basically. And then in the summertime, that's when we experienced the second wave of COVID 19. But there were also the summer protests due to the killing of George Floyd that was happening then. And I kind of wish that I made my YouTube channel a bit earlier so I could have talked about some of those things. But then I think I also, at the same time, chose a pretty good time to start my YouTube channel and to start my daily upload schedule because I also got to talk about the 2020 presidential election and the aftermath of that, and also the third and easily the worst wave of COVID 19, which was the fall/winter wave of the pandemic. And I also got to talk about some of the things Biden did after he became president. I got to talk about a lot of things on this channel because a lot has happened in the past 6 months. And that's kind of why I chose that early September date to begin because I had seen what had happened in the previous 6 months from March through September. And I also realized that this would continue to occur in the upcoming months because the election was coming up, COVID was still around, it wasn't going anywhere. So I realized that a lot of things would continue to happen in the upcoming months, especially with the election. So I thought that that was a good time to start this daily upload schedule, and indeed it was. I had a lot of things to talk about in this channel. It was a pretty great experience if you ask me. Here's the thing though, I can't keep this up forever. This was originally, like I said, going to be a 2 month thing that I would do from September 3rd through November 3rd. And then it became a 4 month thing that I would do up until January 20th. But then I thought that I should go on even a bit longer because Biden is president now. I should talk about some of the things he would do in office. So I kept on going, but this can't go on forever. This was originally meant to be a short term thing, and in the upcoming months, as COVID 19 gets better, as more people get vaccinated, I plan on doing more things outside of this YouTube channel. One of the reasons why I made this YouTube channel was to keep me more occupied during COVID 19 when I couldn't go out much, I couldn't do most of the things I used to do. This was a great way to, I guess, for me to process what all was going on in the world, and a great way for me to spend my time because I had quite a bit of time to make these YouTube videos since I didn't have that much to do because of the pandemic. But now that COVID 19 is starting to clear up, I can't really do this daily upload schedule forever. So I'm announcing right now that this daily upload schedule on this channel, it will be ending on March 13th, 2021. So this week and the next week, these are the last weeks you're going to see me upload a video every single day on this channel. And there's a couple of reasons why I'm choosing March 13th as the end date. First reason is because that's exactly a year after COVID 19 first became a pandemic. I think it was March 11th actually, it was declared a pandemic, but I think March 13th is a good day to end things off because that is a Saturday, so I can finish off the entirety of next week with the daily upload schedule and then end things there. And then the second reason is because a lot of the eventful things that took place throughout the second half of 2020, even in the first half of 2020, those aren't really happening as often now. These sorts of eventful occurrences, like you had the election and that, but now that's finished up. The election, the 2020 presidential election, finished up a while ago. It's already been over a month since Biden got inaugurated as president. Then you had COVID 19, which is now starting to get a lot better. I guess I could continue making videos about that, but I've already made a lot of videos on that, and now that it's getting better, I don't know how much more there really is to talk about it. I made this channel and I started this daily upload schedule when the second wave was starting to get a lot better in the United States, but before the third wave began, I didn't even expect there to be a third wave. I thought that Originally, what I thought was that there would be one wave in the spring and then another one in the fall. The summer wave is the one that caught us all by surprise, but I thought that after we finished up the summer wave, that the fall wave wouldn't be as bad. But I was completely wrong on that. The fall and winter wave was by far the worst wave of COVID 19 in this country and worldwide also because this wave affected a lot of countries across the planet. I think it has to do with the fact that most countries in the world are in the northern hemisphere, and in November through February, these are when these countries started entering winter and the temperature started to decrease by a lot. So more people were indoors, and as a result, the virus spread more easily. I think that's the main reason why there was such a bad wave in the last few months. But now that that's finishing up, I don't think there's going to be any new waves that are worse than what we just experienced. So I've already talked about the most eventful aspects of COVID 19, and then the election also finished up, the House elections, and the Senate and presidential elections finished up. I also talked about some other things on this channel. Like just a couple weeks ago, there was that bad winter storm that affected a good part of the United States. That was also there, but I've already talked about a lot of things on this channel. A lot of the most eventful things I think have already happened. The election already happened. The worst wave of this pandemic already happened. So I don't really think there's that much more for me to talk about. And I don't think the next few months are going to be nearly as eventful as the previous few months were, or even the past year was. Like I said, I wish I started these videos a bit earlier on, like for example in the spring, last spring when COVID 19 started being a thing, and or last summer when the George Floyd riots were taking place. But I also think that I chose a good time to start because I started right before the worst wave of this pandemic, right before the election started getting intense. It was a long run, 6 months of these videos and a year of a pandemic.